Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Reardon, and today Clash of Clans made it to the top of the request list. So we're making a barbarian complete with teeth and even saliva spraying out of his mouth. For the cake you'll need 3 quantities of my rich chocolate cake recipe baked in 6 round cake tins. Now for between the layers, let's make a cookie and cream frosting. Put the cream into a bowl and whip it on high speed. Now all the recipe quantities that you need for this cake, the amounts of fondant, the template, everything are on the howtocookthat.net website, and I'll put a link to that in the description below for you. Keep whipping the cream until it splits like this into the watery part and the fat part. And what we're doing here is we're making our own butter, so it has no colours or flavours or salt or anything added to it. Strain off the liquid and then return it to the mixer and mix it some more to release any more of that liquid and strain that off too. Add the vanilla and the icing sugar and whip it until you have a thick, smooth, creamy frosting like this. Place 2/3 of that into a bowl and mix through some crushed cookies of your choice. I'm using Oreos here, and just mix that through well. Once your cakes are cooled, level them off and then cut out your template and fold this one in half. Place the top of his hair along the top of the cake and then cut a straight line across where the fold in your paper is. You can get the template on the website too. Flip the template over so that his chin is on the bottom edge and then cut across the fold. Put those 2 pieces to one side, we'll use them later so don't eat them, and then join the big parts together and open up your template and place it on top. Now fold in the bits that are sticking out like the saliva and his moustache so that you get a straight line along his chin or his cheek there, and do the same on the other side with the moustache and the hair and his ear. Take your knife and trim straight down all the way around the template and keep going, just cutting down to the cake board until you have the head shape cut out. Repeat that with all of your other cake so that you end up with 3 heads. Add a generous amount of simple syrup to the cakes. Now this is just made using 1/4 cup of sugar mixed with 1/4 cup of water and heated in the microwave until the sugar is dissolved. And it just makes sure that the cakes are super moist. Then add your cookies and cream frosting on top of one of the cakes, spreading it out evenly. Stack the next cake on top of that. Then add more frosting and spread that out over the cake, and then add the top layer of cake on top of that. Now for the outside of the cake, I'm using the rest of the vanilla buttercream whipped in with a white chocolate ganache, and again I'll put the recipe for that on the website. Take a square cake board and put a small amount of the ganache onto the board, and then add the top part of the head, then a layer of ganache down the side there just to join the 2 halves together, then put the other half on and push them together so that there's a nice tight join there. Place the side template next to the cake and use it to guide you to cut out his mouth area, just going down and across and down the other side so that you just get that piece taken out straight across the cake. Then round out his chin, and next you want to cut along, you can just see where his nose is, we want to cut down on the base of his nose so that it just goes down very slightly, not much. Then round off the top where his hair is. Now when you look at your barbarian from the top down, he's quite blocky and straight, and we do want him to be a bit like that, but a bit rounded. So just round him out a little bit. So use your knife to shave off the corners and do that on both sides of his hair, and then also do it on his cheekbones, the sides of his chin, and the base of his chin there too. And with his chin, or the sort of the neck bit, the underneath of his chin, we want to take that down on a very slight angle inwards. So just cut right down to the cake board, cutting it in slightly. Place the template over the top, and now we want to mark out where the edges of his mouth will be. So just use a skewer and poke holes through the template all the way into the cake along the line of the inside edge of his mouth. Then when you remove the template, you can see where the holes are that you just made, and just use your knife to join the dots just like you're doing dot to dot. Now you only want to cut a little way down, you don't want to go too deep here at first. Remove that top layer of cake, then use a spoon to scoop out the frosting that you can see there. and then go using that spoon again down deeper, so you're digging out like a round mouth shape, and keep going until you just start to break through to the next layer of frosting underneath. So you've got through 2 whole layers of cake there. Use your knife to angle down the cheekbones where the chin joins to the face there as well. Then place your template back on top, and just along sort of the level with where his moustache is, add some of the offcuts to the cake board there so that we have his shoulders just built up, and then add another piece for his chest. Use some of your frosting to hold them into place, and then trim it off to make it straight with the edge of the cake board. Now for the crumb coat, take some of your ganache frosting and melt it in the microwave, then just simply spoon it onto the cake and spread it out really thinly. Now this thin crumb coat just catches all the crumbs, so it makes it easier when you come to do your next layer. Once it's completely covered, place it in the fridge for about 10 minutes. Now that that's chilled, you can add the next layer of frosting, and you can see how there are no crumbs going into it when we put it on. With a carved fresh cake like this, if you don't have that crumb coat, you'd be getting lots of little bits of cake and crumbs all through this next layer. Cover the whole thing and then spend a bit of time getting it as smooth as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the smoother it is, the better. Then place that in the fridge to chill. While that's chilling, roll out some white fondant and cut out some teeth in the width shown on the template there. Now for each one, you want to use your finger just to slightly round the edges so it's not quite so square, and then flatten and narrow the end that will be going into the gum and shorten it as you need to. Repeat that to make the top front teeth as well, and then roll out a thick layer of fondant and cut out some cubes. Round the edges using your finger, and then press down in the center to make an indent, and then use the back of a knife to make a line across one way and then the other. And there you have a back tooth, and you'll need 14 of these molars altogether. He has amazingly clean white teeth for a barbarian. For his eyes, roll the ball of white fondant and shape it to the size shown on the template. So it should be rounded across the top, but you should also be able to see that black line from the template all the way around it. Roll out some light blue fondant and cut out 2 circles in the size that you can see on the template there. Add them to the eye using a little bit of water to make them stick. And then add the black pupil, again using the template as a guide to get the size right. Now usually, as you would know, the iris and the pupil in eyes would be the same size, but having them different makes him appear a bit more cartoony, and then putting them cross-eyed makes him look a little bit crazy. Next, take some of the blue gel food colour and paint some around the edge of the iris coming in towards the middle. Then add a tiny bit of white to bring the eye to life. By now your ganache on the cake should be firmer, so you can take that out of the fridge, place some clean paper towel over the top and gently rub it with your hand. This just smooths out any little bumps in the frosting so that his skin will look even. Once you've done that, roll out some orangey brown and drape it over your hand, and then add it into his mouth. Lift and position the fondant until you just get one large fold on one side. Squeeze that together at the base and then trim it off using your scissors. Use the back of your spoon and your fingers just to smooth out the inside of his mouth, and then trim the excess from around the edge. Now you don't want to cut it all off. Leave some of it that's folding out around of his mouth here the whole way round. Use your fingers to make sure there is a straight edge inside his mouth along each side so that the teeth can fit in there. You can push quite firmly here when you're doing this, but you've just got to make sure you've got room for all of your teeth. Starting at the back, add his molars into place. Now there should be 4 on each side at the bottom. And then with a knife, make a cut where the front teeth will be and push them into the cake. Repeat that with your top teeth. And then add a snake of gum colour just across the top of his teeth there, and using the end of your paintbrush, push the gum up slightly between each tooth. Now I've got some exciting news. You guys have seen my husband Dave in some of my videos before, but what you may not know is that he has worked as a journalist for all of the top newspapers in Australia, and he is currently writing a novel. And the reason I'm telling you this is we'd love you to be involved in writing it. There are 3 main characters in the book, and 2 of them are from Australia and 1 is from out of town, and I want to know what country you would like him to be from. Let us know in the comments below, and the most popular answer will determine his nationality in the book. This is going to be so much fun. I'll ask you different questions in the videos as we go forward while my husband's writing. Now with the mouth there, just blend the top of the gum in with the fondant that you've already done. Now that that's done, we want to cover the whole thing in his skin colour. Just drape that over the top, then lift and smooth. Now fondant is weird in that it looks like it's going to be too big, but if you just keep lifting and smoothing, lifting and draping it back down, it magically all just fits. Trim off the excess from around the edge and then roll that into a ball and gently rub it along the fondant to smooth it out. Now for the fun bit. Look where his teeth are and put the mouth template over the top and gently outline it with the knife. Then make the cut a little deeper on one side and lift up the fondant and cut it through the rest of the way as you're going around. And then once you've got it all the way off there, just use your finger to smooth out the cut edge. Then add a little bit of water along that edge and add a long strip of fondant all the way around the opening of his mouth, all the way back to the beginning, and join that together. Again, use your template here just to make sure you've got the shape of his mouth just right. It goes down a bit on one side at the bottom there, just use your finger to shape it. Put some cocoa powder on a dry paintbrush and brush right down the back of his mouth there just to darken that slightly. To make his tongue, flatten out a thick snake and trim it to size using the template, and then use your fingers to round it at the front and make it go up slightly in the middle, and then just add that into the mouth, curving up slightly in the middle. Roll out a thick snake of yellow and flatten it out using a rolling pin, and then shape it into his moustache shape using the template and trim it to the right length. Rub a little water onto the cake so that it will stick, and add that into place for his moustache. Just push it down a little bit in the middle at the top of his mouth and shape it around there. For his nose, roll a ball of fondant and squash it into a triangle shape. Then use the side of your finger to flatten down each nostril and the bridge of his nose. Then really round out that top section, just rolling it between your fingers, and then flatten it down, squash it down a bit, then add 2 holes for the nostrils. Take a scrap of fondant and brush it with a little bit of the pink luster dust just to get most of it off, and then brush that tiny bit that's left onto the nose to give it that sort of red glow. Using some water, add it into place just above his moustache there. Then draw 2 indents coming out from his nose and one that's coming out a little bit higher there and going around. Then use your thumbs to make a slight indent, and this is going to be our eye area. Then brush the cheeks and around the top of the eye area with a little bit more pink luster dust. Add your eyeballs into place, then roll a thin snake of his skin colour and add it around the eye, and continue to add more until you're happy with it. Roll out some yellow for his hair and use the template to cut out the centre shape. Smooth the edges there just using your finger, then lift the whole thing up and add the fondant on top, smoothing down the top of his hair. On one side, cut out the ear area and then tuck the excess fondant under to make it look thicker, and then just trim that off with scissors to make his haircut look just right. Using a knife, trim it off just slightly bigger than it needs to be, and then tuck it in around the base of his head. Cut a line in the centre of his hair there, and then make an indent along where his eyebrows would be if we could see them. For the ears, roll a snake that is fat at one end and skinny at the other, and bend it around to make an ear shape. Then take a smaller piece and roll that into the same shape, but this time flatten it down and just pinch it or squeeze it at one side to give it a bit of a different shape at the top there. Add that underneath the part you made first, and then add the whole thing to the side of the head, and just use the back of the paintbrush or something smooth just to shape it slightly and sort of blend it onto the side of his head. Use a little bit more pink to dust his chin, and then use some cocoa powder just to dust the base of his neck and his shoulders just to give them a bit of shading. Add some pink in straight lines to the hair and just under his eyes there. To make the saliva, the really gross bit, place some isomalt into a pan and heat it until it melts. And you could also use sugar for this, but the isomalt is more stable, so it's going to last for a whole day, whereas the sugar will go sticky within an hour. Once it's melted, put drops onto non-stick baking paper and also drizzle some going up and down the paper so that you can use this for the saliva between his teeth. Let that set and then add it into his mouth, just resting it between his teeth there. Then add some of the droplets coming out of the side of his mouth like they're spraying out. Finally, you can cover the board in red fondant, trimming it to make it straight along the edge, and then brush it with luster dust to shade it. And there you have a barbarian from Clash of Clans, complete and ready to battle. Click here for the recipe, here for last week's giant Tim Tam, and here for my YouTube channel. This cake was requested by Aminal, Monica, Origami Joy, Lillian, Renzoe, Kusum, and all of these other wonderful subscribers. Put all of your requests below. Make it a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.